This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Howdy, 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 everybody, and welcome to the iRacing Formula 3.5 series here from lovely Circuit Park, Zandvoort. I'm Austin Knight. I am joined by the one, the only Marco Barbonera in the commentary box, and we are ready to go racing live from the Netherlands. Marco, how are you doing?
Doing fine, cannot wait for this. This is going to be super interesting. This car has proven all season long to us and to the viewers that it can provide some spectacular racing everywhere we go. And this track, usually very tough, I've commented on the World Championship Series here back in the days of the MP4-30, the races were very boring. But I expect a very entertaining race. Only 19 degrees the temperature. Track is perfect for the race. Lowest temperature basically possible. So tons of grip for these drivers, a truckload of humidity, and more importantly, the championship points. The championship points that are, as you can see, very shy, as per usual. So bear with me just a second. No, there will be no championship points because we will go through the grid first.
Yeah, go into the grid, and that will take you to the points, but taking pole is Christopher Herberdahl, followed by Paul Ilbright, Phil Reed, Steve Honan, Edward A. Samborski, Rob Bohr, Greg Olson, Omar Baha, Renardo Augusto, Dominic Gadamer, Stephen Chatnell, and Thomas Knoll in P12. They're followed by Simone Pizzica, Rob Crouch, even RT Emery, and Patrick Leovet at the back of the grid. And here are your current points. Tim Delisle way up in the lead ahead of Greg Olson, with Sam Borski in third, followed by Paul Ilbrink, Rob Bohr, Renardo Augusto, I.M. Keyman, Erica Lindstrom, Omar Baha, Rob Crouch, Lobor Morik, Sergio Bill, Patrick Leovet, Manuel Domingo, Alexei Sirotkin, Nicholas Bradford, Simon Pisiga, and Manuel Domingo in 18th place. You're going to notice a few of the front runners not here today because they're busy with the Bathurst 12 Hours race.
Yeah, it was the same for the Euro V8s. That was a great race nonetheless. And let's see what they will bring to us, these F3.5 drivers. As you can see, very congratulations to whoever painted the start line, because as you can see, the cars are anything but straight, especially on the inside line. I mean, look at that. As Christopher Binot then, starting from pole, the Belgian driver for Cube Racing Simulator racing team. Paul Hilbrink, his home race, if I'm not mistaken, will start in second. And he was the last. No, we are waiting for Evan Imre and Patrick Letouvet. And then we will be ready to go racing.
Well, looks like everyone's getting ready right now as the 5 red lights are coming up. The cars are getting into green as we're going racing here at Zandvoort. It was a great jump by Paul Ilbrink as he was going down the inside. Now he's swung to the outside. He's going to sweep around the outside, using that banking to his advantage along this long turn 1. Side by side up onto the exit they go, and Samborski's off the track and back in the field. But they're tight heading into this tight hairpin, side by side for P2.
Big mess there. Oh man, we'll come back to it very, very soon. But look at that, because Phil Reed is attacking Paul Hilbrink for second place.
Reed using that inside line to his advantage, but it's a switchback move by Ilbrink. Went a little bit wide. Ilbrink trying to get his nose in there, but that corner is so fast. It's hard to get a braking move in there. A lot of people were saying when F1 announced that they were coming here, it was going to be very hard to overtake. It is true. It is pretty hard to overtake at this track. As let's get a replay of the start. Samborski gets knocked off into that massive gravel pit. And then chaos ensued as they come into turn 3. Cars sliding around, a big 4-5 car crash. Wow. With that chaos in the back, as we finish lap 1, Christopher Herbernal stays in P1, followed by Phil Reed and Paul Ilbrink. As we see Rob Bohr looking around the, well, getting overtaken around the outside, but got the switchback move. Greg Olsen tried a great move, but unfortunately didn't work.
It didn't work, no? You are absolutely right. He went a bit too deep on the brakes. So Rob Bohr is back into 5th position. Thomas Knoll is headed for the pits, so is Evan T. Himray. You can see missing important bits and pieces of his car, but Christopher Binot looking like he's enjoying this track, pulling away or trying to do so against Phil Reed. Paul Hilbrink went briefly into the lead at the start of the race. Now he's down to 3rd position. Steve Honan always there or thereabouts, and Rob Bohr. Bad start, of course, for Edward Samborski. He will be forced to a race of comeback, and as you know, in this series there are no scheduled stops for the drivers. It's a flag-to-flag race, and Samborski, of course, will have to come back, and he goes here in the chicane trying to make the move. It's very narrow, no way through, and Chantal keeps the position.
That was very tight heading into there by both drivers. No nonsense. Not leaving any move did Chatnall, and Samborski luckily stayed out of the rear wing of Steven, but he's got a great draft and a good run. He enables DRS as he flies down side by side, heading into turn 1. To tell if cars using DRS, and you cannot see through that little slit in the rear wing.
You have developed some sort of like snap on. I mean, the moment you see the car, Austin, you are immediately able to tell us whether that DRS is open or not. So now Samborski has completed the pass, looking to pull away. Let's move back to the front here, because Urbino, Reed and Ilbrink are still very much close to each other as they head for the chicane. The chicane called, which is not really a chicane, but it is a chicane. Hans Ernst Bocht, and then they come to our favorite corner of the racetrack, this right-hander here called Kumo Bocht. Sadly not in honor of our colleague Samuli Kumo, but because of the Kumo tires. And then of course the beautiful Ari Leyendijk Bocht, and that this final portion of the racetrack, of course, in real life being reprofiled for the arrival of F1 later this year.
And with it coming to iRacing hashtag soon.
Yeah.
And there's also a reason why I'm not saying any of these corner names, because I will mess it up. but Marco is.
So the drivers now getting down to Rob Slaughtermacher-Bocht. Here, this basically crested section, they go down the hill to the double right-hander, Scheivlak and Mastersbocht, the two right-handers. This is the first one, and that's the other one, of course. And then we have two very, very, very difficult names here, because these are turn 9 and turn 10, literally the name of the corner. And then, of course, back. It's a very, very short lap, very technical lap at that, and you cannot afford to make any kind of mistake.
Yeah, no mistakes is very hard to do around here. It's a very tricky track to get right. Paul Ilbricht's on the back of Phil Reed. If he gets a good run heading out of these final corners, he can get a wonderful race and a wonderful drive. So we're going to look, see if he enables DRS. He does not. No DRS for P2, but Christopher Herbendahl using DRS as he is trying to pull away from Reed and Ilbricht. But even with DRS, he gained so little speed on the car ahead. If they have any draft, it's very hard to get past them. So it's kind of beneficial for Christopher Herbendahl trying to pull away out of the draft of Phil Reed and Paul Ilbricht.
People asking what happened to Reynaldo Augusto. He was involved in the mess at the start, then made another mistake here. As you can see, he also went hard into the wall. Well, I was not expecting that. And that was the end of his race. But of course, he was also involved in a crash earlier. If we can get the replay, I will show it to you. There we go. Start of the race, of course. Oh, he got
Oh, he was involved?
Yeah.
He's the one who turned him.
Got hit someone in the front and got hit in the back, so basically the complete package, unfortunately, for him. And of course the other driver.
The car that was turned first was Donovan Gattemeyer in there, and he didn't have the best start, but well, actually, he did have a pretty good start since that was the upper midfield, but unfortunately, no!
Oh dear me, that
heart
was
attack.
As he disappears behind the tire barrier, loses a boatload of positions. Let's see the replay.
Great that we have a chopper over him at that point. He just hit the curb, and then he almost came into him. Then it just turned into just nastiness right there. Leaders still in a tight three-way pack. Great racing between these guys, and that Agosto incident looked almost turn for turn play-by-play of my Skippy incident last week.
You know, we have we don't shave on any expenses. We have 16 drivers and 16 choppers, like pointing straight down at them. So really, we aim to give you the best service possible. A driver that is looking good despite that first corner accident, a separate accident at that, is Edward Samborski. He is now closing the gap on Rob Crouch. Samborski, of course, seems to be okay, but we know that what transpires from the images might not be what he's actually feeling with his car. He might have some a little bent suspension, etc. As Reed gets the fastest lap of the race, 1:21.42.
Samborski's making a good pass around the outside. I think Rob Crouch may just let him by, though. Don't believe that was DRS assisted at all. So Rob Crouch, believe he just let him by. Yeah, DRS not assisted. That was just a left by.
I jump on
Very
board
nice
with
of
Phil
these
Reed.
drivers. Free ride on board with Phil Reed. Started at P2. Good switchback on the exit of turn 1 and into turns 2 and 3 to get ahead of Paul Ilbricht, who just went very deep on turn 3. And we saw that gaggle of cars. We kind of got distracted by it, but it was a great start by Phil to get through the block by Paul Ilbricht. See how much he works the wheel. headed to this final corner.
One thing that we know about these cars is that they don't like bumps, they don't like irregularities on the road, and of course, if you tend to put your wheel too much on the inside here on the curbs, it will upset the car. By the way, Ilbrink now gets the personal best, 21.58, also fastest of the leading trio, but as other drivers are saying in the chat, are very difficult to pass around here. It's going to take some mistakes or a stroke of genius for one of these three drivers, or two drivers I should say, as we have a move here on the front stretch as Stéphane Chantal goes past Patrick Letouvet for P12.
It's a great move. See DRS being enabled. So that slit is just fully
Man,
filled.
how did you see that from all that way? Man, you are magic. The cars were at the back of the front stretch. The camera was so far away, and you still were able to notice it.
I'm magic.
How do you
what
do
can I
that?
say? Us Texans have good eyes for a reason. DRS enabled for Phil Reed coming out of the final corner, but Paul Ilbrink using that free DRS, and he's going to do a good run. He's not going to use any of his own. He's going to save up all those charges and wait for his opportunity to strike, as these three guys are still with each other. There's a lot of drivers in the chat who are not at this race was saying that it is very hard to pass here. So the DRS assisted overtakes are going to be very crucial at the end of the race when they've all ran out.
Exactly, only 8 activations for these drivers with a cooldown period in between each activation. This means that you don't have a set place where you can activate the DRS just like in F1, and also you can use it to defend, not just to attack, which makes it even more of a strategic option for the drivers. They need to use their heads when using said help of the DRS. And of course, like you were saying, it's not that overpowered as it is in F1. So again, it's something that you need to use carefully as we are entering one third of the race. No, one. Okay, 9 laps on. You know what I mean.
Math. This is why I avoid numbers sometimes, because
No, it's one third of the race. You know, 9 times
Yes,
3 is
it is.
27, no? So okay.
yes, you were exactly right. I know you and I were both up at 5 a.m. this morning racing in a completely separate series, and you won that race, I must say. Congrats, by the way. Still.
Oh, wow.
Um,
it was not 5 a.m. for you.
No, it was not. It was relatively
don't whistle out of your terrible calculations. Because mine are bad, even if I went to sleep at a normal time. So Samborski, fastest sector 2 of the race, and he's hunting down a fellow countryman in Simone Pizzica, driver who I remember when he first started in a racing 1 year ago, more or less. We were racing against each other in the skippies. We both were like sitting at my my usual level of 700 800 rating, which spikes up to 1500 every once in a while. And look at him now, almost 3500, enjoying the life in the top split. He's sitting in the top 20 of the championship. So, but now we will have a tough fight because Edward Samborski is very quick. Also, we have another attack here.
Fastest lap.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race for Erbino, as we saw Greg Olson attack again Rob Boer, and you saw he attacked him earlier. That was many laps ago, and that's all the time it took for Olson to get a good run on Boer. Such is the dirtier, difficult for these drivers to overcome.
Very difficult for drivers to overcome this dirty air. That's one factor in all these sweeping corners that this track is very hard to overtake. As Dominic Gannemar is stopped sideways coming out of turn 3.
Some damage. See, front left.
Yes, he does. But that was all on the exit. He clipped the inside curb, and that just upset the car balance. Sent it sideways. Riding on board of Omar Baja. So we're looking back at the chart. Oh, no!
I think Simone managed to avoid him. Gets the position. Now it's Edwards' opportunity to get past his fellow countryman who slid there. That chicane there, of course, with the big bumps on the inside of the curbs. Really, this car doesn't like it.
DRS enabled for Samborski. Side by side they go. Samborski looking down the inside. Very late on the brakes. Charge. We rarely see this from Samborski, but he sends one up into P8. Redemption mode engaged for Edward A. Samborski, trying to fight it back after that start of a crash. But let's see what's happened to Omar Baja. Heading into the chicane, hopped up onto the curb, exactly like we saw, locked up the brakes, and then Simo Pizzica just went through there like he didn't even... Pizzica, I think he just drove that normally.
Oh yeah? You know why? Maybe he didn't have even time to react, so, you know, stuck to the traditional line. But yeah, we saw that crash so many times today, both in practice qualifying and now in the race, of course. Like I said, this car doesn't like bumps, and on the inside of the curb there's like a metal cover or something, like a drain, you know, drain cover, and that's basically the perfect poison. So, top 3 still very close to each other. You can see there on the horizon the number 8 car of Steve Honan and Rob Burr under attack once again from Olson, but Olson cannot make it stick once again.
Olson really needs to get some work on because he's still second place in the championship, and if he gets a good result here, he could close up a big gain to his teammate Tim Delisle. But he's been having a very tough race being stuck behind Rob Bohr.
Rob Bohr.
See the grass getting kicked up.
Yeah, and that's of course a problem because it gets kicked right into the braking area, into the racing line.
Oh, big slide from Greg Olson.
Yeah. And it has to be said, Bohr is really holding his nerves there. Having a very good performance. It's never easy to have a driver of the caliber of Greg Olson. I mean, Rob Bohr has got 4,892 iRating, so we are not talking about a rookie, you know. So, but still, Greg Olson is one of the. I mean, yeah, the SOF tonight is the race did split. Let's see if I can bring you the SOF. 4.5K.
It's insanely high. 4.5 thousand iRating. It's insane the level these guys are at.
You know that once I had the distinction of having broadcasted the highest SOF ever in iRacing? That record has been beaten by the Porsche Esports Super Cup last year, but for a bit I held the record with an iRacing Le Mans Series race at Circuit of the Americas. I think the GT SOF was like 7.5Ks, and that was the highest ever SOF in iRacing history. Well, it was fun while it lasted.
We'll get it back next year.
Considering it was, you know, Porsche Super Cup is, you know, big event. That was the Wednesday night SOF race of the Le Mans Series, and, you know, nothing more.
It is good to see Christopher Herbernal back up on stream, and he's doing it the best way possible, just by disappearing directly in front of our faces, but back in P1.
Oh, yes.
Started P1, staying in P1, and at his home track, I believe.
He's from Belgium, so we are in the Netherlands. Close, but no cigar.
He's around his home track.
Yeah. Paul Hilbrink, I think he's from the Netherlands. Of course, you are making the mistake that everyone makes, myself included, of swapping around Zolder with Zandvoort. Zolder, of course,
That
being
is
in
true.
Belgium.
That is true, and I'm going by Texas size maps here and not European size maps where y'all are very close to each other. For me, driving out of my state's a chore.
Well, when I went from Italy to Belgium for the Spa 24 hours, I drove through Italy, Austria, Germany, and Belgium. So, and it was like a bit of a long trip. But for the same time, I think you will barely make it to Texas, basically to the border, I would imagine.
It takes me 6 hours to leave my state. 4 hours if you drive like a Texan. Speaking of Texas, somebody who actually who visited Texas, Everett A. Samborski, is pulling out a little bit of a drive like a Texan drive because he's still moving up the field and chasing after Pisica. He started pretty far up the grid, but unfortunately, he was pushed off. But this is something that we usually don't see for Samborski. Samborski being one of those drivers that like to sit it back and play it safe, but he's seeing some red mist right now, and he's charging through the field. Got knocked all the way down to last place in the first corner. But I'm loving this drive that he's putting on.
Yeah, I think he's waiting for the good opportunity to pounce, and maybe you see him just poking his nose on the inside at turn 10 there, as they head for the chicane. No way to make a move here unless Simone makes a mistake. Locks the brakes. Oh, this is a good chance for Samborski to have a good run, but he has a little bit of a moment, and then almost turns into disaster. He put the right side wheels on the grass, and that was almost a disaster. In the same time, Herbino has almost pulled a 1 second gap over Reed, who is falling into the clutches of Hilbrink, so maybe this is the moment Herbino was waiting for with 10 to go, trying to pull away and maybe hoping that Hilbrink and Reed can get into a fight.
Everyone's freaking out over that save that Samborski just had. He was nearly sideways. These V7 tires definitely going to attack back whenever you just touch the grass. And that's what makes this track dangerous, because there's grass on the circuit.
Weather
riding
update.
on board, Paul. It's currently 19 degrees Celsius in the air and on track here at lovely Zandvoort. 10km/h winds here this February 8th night. Wow, it actually is using the right date.
Yeah.
87% chance humidity, and the dew point's out 1028. If you understand that, congrats to your weatherman. Paul Hilbrink looking down the inside. Oh, he could get this one. Reed's let the room. Hilbrink, can he get him off the exit? Unfortunately, cannot do it, but it was a great charge by Paul Hilbrink.
Yeah, man, that was a good chance for Hilbrink because Reed didn't have the best of lines through turn 1. Look at the run he's having here. No way through this corner, unfortunately. There is no physical space for two cars. Then the track here widens out. Reed is a bit sideways, but has a better run than Hilbrink, all things considered. Here the track is very, very wide. Reminds me of the final sector at Kota, but with less 90-degree corners and more rounded corners. But still, it's very difficult to get a good rhythm. The dirty air, it's really punishing you here in this section. Then, of course, again, the chicane. So easy to make a mistake here. The most difficult, I would say the most treacherous corner of the racetrack. And then back to Kumo Bocht As you can see, the Kumo tires. Oh, mistake!
Here comes Elbrick! Mistake from Reed. Reed went a bit wide, got into the grass, had to slow down to keep his car going straight. And that has projected Paul Ilbrink back into P2. The order he started it, but what a disastrous move. Looks like Phil Reed just forgot to turn in. He got caught up onto that curb and just couldn't turn in.
So will this release Paul Ilbrink to go and catch Christoph Urbino? He's got 8 laps, if I'm not mistaken, as the gap right now is 1.8 seconds. So we see...
jumped up there last lap, but I believe Phil Reed was holding Paul Ilbrink back just a little bit. We'll see by the sector times on how they're closing in on each other. But after that incident, that did slow Paul Ilbrink up a lot because he had to avoid there. So now the fight begins. And Ilbrink, he is closing down on Christopher Herbernal. So I believe my theory was right that Phil Reed was definitely holding up Paul just a bit. He is the #1 iRating driver in the field, so all the odds are in his favor, and he's going to have the draft, the dirty air from Christopher Herbernal, and he hasn't used his DRS as much as Herbernal has.
Oh, contact!
Big crash! Samborski and Baja!
No, it's Samborski and Pizzica.
Baja was the one that passed on the inside. They're still spun around. Pizzica's got moving, but Samborski's, yeah, there he goes. Oh. This is Samborski. Pizzica. Samborski on full attack mode. Not letting down. Great send into the chicane, but oh.
So very similar.
Chicane too.
Yeah, very similar liveries, but the car we are seeing is Samborski's. So another crash for Samborski. So benefiting from this are Omar Ba and Rob Crouch. They both jumped up 2 positions basically. And Paul Ilbrink, by the way, has just set the fastest sector 3 of the race. The gap is now down to 1 second. Let's keep an eye on the sectors. And as you can see, he is quickly eating up that gap.
He's getting 2/10 in sector 4. Paul
Sector
Ilbrink
5
is chomping down on him.
What happened to Gadermeyer here? Almost pulling
off
Renato
track.
Augusto. Almost.
Almost pulling another move that I did. You can flip your car out there, by the way.
Urbino, fastest first sector of the race, answering to the pressure, gains 1/10 over Paul Ilbrink. Now the gap is back to being 1.6, so I would expect a mistake from Paul at the beginning of the lap, because the gap is now, as you can see, increasing once again. So he might have made a mistake somewhere in the beginning of the lap.
I think he's hit the dirty air wall. The dirty air wall is around 1.6 seconds that these drivers feel the pressure and affects the dirty air, so you can't hit the speeds that you usually can.
Yeah,
So I
no
don't
mistake.
see any mistake from these guys. He's just hit that wall of dirty air, and you can't really gain as much, and you're going to have to rely on the mechanical grip of the car. But in the... Oh, Samborski's off.
Well,
But
it
in
was
these
a nice
heights-
comeback, but it all went...
It was...
clipped grass.
Yeah. Alright, back to my dirty air discussion. In these high-speed corners that pretty much make up all of Zandvoort, it's going to be hard to gain up onto a car when there are so few very slow-speed corners here, and you're just going to have to... And you have to rely off of the aerodynamic pressure from the other guy. And that's what's making this circuit very hard to pass and close down on each other.
Yeah, tell this to Greg Olson, who has tried since basically the first lap to get past Rob Boer, but Rob Boer has been able to keep it nice and clean in front of him, and he's holding it to the top 5 without there have been a couple of attacks from Olson, but none of them have been decisive. The gap is increasing ever so slightly, now up to 2 seconds between Erbino and Ilbrink, with Reed, which is 1.2 seconds behind our second placed car, as they are about to get past Patrick Letouvet, not having the best race. Stefan Chantal has an issue, big issue.
Big slide! Just like Samborski, exactly the same spot too as well. You know, I believe these guys' tires are wearing off. Paul Ilbrink might be suffering from tire wear now, because he's spent the entire race behind Phil Reed, trying to get around him. And now that he's in clean air, he still can't gain to Herbert. That's showing that he's losing mechanical grip as well.
And this, of course, is despite the temper.
Oh!
Ilbrink is around.
Ilbrink! Out of the corner of my eye, I just saw a red car heading into the gravel trap. Paul Ilbrink is falling down the order.
Oh no, now it's contact with Olson.
Olson's forced to go wide. Paul Ilbrink. Massive disaster for Paul Ilbrink.
He clipped the grass.
He was just in the grass. He was in the grass.
Again. So third straight crash we see at that corner, with the same dynamic. So I was saying, despite this being a very cold track, the tires are still dropping very, very, very badly towards the end of the race. Paul Ilbrink, the #1 rated driver in the room, not immune to mistakes, and now we will also not only lose the podium, but also lose iRating, a mere 7 iRating points, so I don't think we will cry too much about it, but it shows that everyone can be caught off guard by this racetrack. Huge relief, of course, for Christophe Herbinot, as he's now holding a comfortable 3.4 seconds lead over Phil Reed, and Steve Onan, of course, the happiest guy in the circuit right now, because he has been gifted the podium. Let's follow this fight here. Greg Olson not very happy, I would guess, with that rejoin by Ilbrink, that used his elbows to keep him out of the racetrack.
Yeah, he definitely will not be happy after that incident. And then the rejoin by Paul Ilbrink definitely held him back there. But I believe Greg Olson, I almost called him George for some reason. I'm sorry about that. But Greg Olson, he can definitely use the draft by Paul Ilbrink, and then probably the red mist that he's seeing right now to try to get past him. But Paul, we've seen his pace, but his tires has got to be hurting with these 2 laps remaining. A little recap for our friends in the chat that has just joined us. Star of the race. 3 wide for the fight. Samborski went wide in a turn 1, and then a massive 5-car crash that involved Noel, Emery, Shatnell, Gadameyer, and a few other cars as well. Augusto, he crashed around this corner actually all by himself. And he got jumped out of the race. And other than that, the chicane at the end of this lap proved to be vital, as 3 cars have had incidents and spins. 1 multi-car collision with Samborski and Pizzica collecting each other.
Yeah, it's been a 3-way fight between Herbinot, Reed and Ilbrink all race long, but now this mistake from Paul Ilbrink shuffled things around. Reed has been promoted to 2nd, Onan to 3rd, Boer to 4th, Ilbrink down to 5th. Oh, here we go.
Boer went wide, and Paul Ilbrink is past Rob Boer. Boer did exactly what Phil Reed did, and Greg Olson in that DRS fight with Rob Board. They're scrambling all over the track and they can't get past each other. Greg Olson must be screaming right now of, come on. He's been stuck behind. He's been stuck behind Rob Board this entire race and can't get past him at all.
He just set his fastest lap of the race, and still that wasn't enough speed on the front stretch to get past Rob Bird, that was clearly in trouble after that mistake that he made. They have a lapped car in front of them. Big risk there, but the driver pulls out of the way.
Especially little vets.
Yeah. As they are heading once again to the end of another lap. Speaking of which, the race leader will get the white flag in a moment and be just one lap to take the win. I think Greg is going to send it next lap around here. So here comes Christophe Urbino. Sarella Blanca here in Zandvoort. Final lap of the race.
Said correctly for the first time this season. Because all the rest times I've been saying it, I know I'm not saying it right. But yes, here comes Olson. Olson, DRS activated, breaking the draft. Board going wide. Olson cannot break as late as Rob Board did. He is still behind. He's definitely going to send it right here. Going to that chicane. There's no way that he's not sending it. Did I call him George again?
No, I don't think you did.
Okay. Paul Ilbrink just went off track, but he stayed in 4th place as Bohr and Olson still battling out. So they're coming in to Sector 3.
Oh.
Olson looking down the inside. That's a very peculiar way to get the overtake. He might not be close enough to try to send it. Is he going to send it? Board defending onto the inside, swinging onto the outside. Here goes Greg Olson, sending it, and oh no, they touch! And taking the win is Christopher Hobenaw, with Phil Reed in 2nd, and Steve Honan drawing the lucky card today, taking P3, and I believe Olson is going to be letting Bohr by. Yes, he is. That's a class move by Olson. He realized he made a mistake, and he didn't want to win it off of that. Physica has been having a tough race. Something happened to him last lap.
Yeah.
Oh, big off track and big contact into the wall. And that promotes Sam Borski ahead of him. Good parking on the escape road, and then we saw that hit. Olson realized what he did. Just way too far back.
Even though I think there
Nowhere
was
to go. Big netcode.
A fair chunk of netcode. Exactly, that's of course what happens when one is racing in Europe and the other in the Australia-New Zealand region. But great sportsmanship here from Greg to get Rob by. Now, of course, the donuts from our race winner. Let's get a closer view for folks at home, and let's go, as that is, I think...
he's being joined. He's being joined by Phil Reed.
And on these beautiful images, let's go through the race results.
Taking the win is Christopher Hobenaw ahead of Phil Reed, with Steve Honan in 3rd place, followed by Paul Ilbrink. Rob Board classily getting his position back from Greg Olson, ahead of Omar Baha, Rob Crouch, Everett A. Samborski, Simone Pizzica, Dominic Gadameyer, Steven Shatnell, Patrick Leovet, Thomas Knoll, Renard Augusto, with Evan R.T. Emery following up right behind him as well. Very entertaining race. Very entertaining race today.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Nice to have a different winner every once in a while. Of course, Congratulations to the podium. Christopher Bino deserved victory. We cannot wait, of course, to have Team Delisle and the others back for Erka Lidstrom and the others back for next week. But congratulations to Christoph because he would have won. I think he would have been a protagonist regardless of the strength of field tonight. And still, it was a super, super high strength of field. 4.5. Congratulations to him. Very well deserved as we wait for interviews, and we should invite you to join us, of course, tomorrow morning at a very early Aussie time. Aussie mixed and fixed will be back with an endurance round. They should have done the enduro last week in Bathurst. League ran into a little bit of problems with the server, so the enduro has been postponed to this Sunday, so you don't want to miss that. And of course, just a little bit of a word for what's coming up next. Week 10, of course, so you know that the season is running into the final few races, 3 races left to be precise in this championship. And Austin, of course, we will jump to your nation, USA Watkins Glen Classic boot. The drafting on that backstretch with no chicane is going to be something else. You were already laughing. It's
I'm
not a good
giggling
laugh.
with
It's an
excitement.
evil laugh. It's
It's a good. I can't wait to see that type of stuff because me being American, you know how much I love drafting and going fast. And that track is all about drafting and going fast. You thought this circuit was hard to overtake. Glen is going to be even more. Um, it's going to be hard because it's not a lot of braking zones there, but it's a lot of straights. So I hope these guys are ready to give us a amazing show there as we are joined by Paul Ilbrink in the interview room. Howdy, 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 Paul. How are you doing?
I'm gutted, really. Like, so annoyed now.
Uh, you were having a good race so far. Then, unfortunately, going into that last corner, you just got onto the gravel, just wasn't unable to turn in. Heading onto the straight. Was this your home track? Air quote.
It was, and I think you're talking about another incident, I guess.
I am talking about another incident. I am sorry. Yeah, I got confused.
Yeah. No, I was so hoping to get pole here, but my first lap wasn't that great, and yeah, I uh, I had to just take seconds, and I got like a good start of the line, but tried to go outside of Christoph in turn one. Unfortunately, that didn't work, and while I was still like going side by side to turn 2 and 3 a little bit, like Phil managed to edge around me on the outside in turn 4, I think. So he got P2 from me, which was like a bit annoying, but luckily like I could follow that the train quite well. We didn't really lose Christoph, so it was all fine. And then like I saw Phil using a lot of DRS during the race already to defend, I guess. So I didn't use any. Then he made a mistake coming onto the main straight. Indeed, I passed him there. So I still had plenty of laps left to try and catch Christoph again and maybe overtake him. But towards the end, we had that back marker falling back through the fields, and at the back of the track, when he let Christoph by, I was like so focused on not running off the track on the left, and then all of a sudden I saw that slower backmarker car on the apex of the next corner, and just that slight distraction was like too much, and I like clipped the grass a bit on the left and just flew off the track, which ruined my race.
Were you seeing a little bit of red after that incident? I wanted to get up the field as far as you can, or did you just want to stay back and not and just finish this race?
Well, I lost so much time that there was not much I could do to get back anymore. Like, and I have to apologize to Greg because when I rejoined, I thought my relative showed the cars like behind me were a bit further back, but actually after I like joined the track again, Rob Boer flew by, and Greg was like on my left, and I think I like cut him off a little bit there. So that was totally on me. Like didn't notice they were already there, so I want to apologize for that. But yeah, I just got back past Rob Boer again, but the rest was already like I lost too much time to catch the top three. So this is what it is, but I hope for a bit better results than this, to be honest.
Well, hopefully next week at Washington Glen will be much better for you. Before we let you go, anyone you want to thank?
Just all my teammates at Radicals Online and our partners and sponsors, Cranfield Simulation, Joe Real Timing, Arma Center, SS Sim Race, Motive Podcast, Turn Racing, Sim Mortals, Exciteways, and Pixel.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Hopefully you have a better rest of your night and a better week next time.
Yeah, let's hope so.
All right, Marco, that was Paul Ilbrink. I believe you're standing by with Greg Olson.
I absolutely am. Hello, Greg. First of all, congratulations on that nice gesture you made at the end, letting Rob by. But all in all, your race was defined by that duel with Rob Boer, and you tried and tried and tried to get past him, but to no avail.
Yeah, first of all, sorry to Rob about the touch. I wasn't really looking for the move up the inside, but I think I'd been braking a little bit later that whole time, and yeah, just went in a bit deep. So sorry about that. But yeah, Rob did a really good job actually holding me off. My best chance was really on, I think it was lap 2 or 3, where I got a really good run up the inside, and I just locked up the brakes massively going into turn 1. So I think I blew my best chance right there to get past him, and he did well to resist all that pressure for the entire race.
So I would say that together with Laguna Seca, this has proven to be the toughest place to overtake so far this season, no?
Yeah, I think that's when I first drove this track at the start of the week. I thought it was a lot like Laguna Seca, actually, just in terms of how tough it is. It's like Laguna Seca, but without the elevation change. Really, it doesn't let up; just heaps of corners, and it's really difficult to overtake. But I'd say it's just as easy to make a mistake. So you have to take those chances when they come. And unfortunately, I didn't do that today.
And next week we are heading for the Watkins Glen Classic booth layout. And of course, the main characteristic of that track is that massive straight, uninterrupted by the bus stop. And I think, I don't know if you agree with me, that the way this car works in the draft and the DRS, we might see some crazy drafting and moving there on that backstretch.
Yeah, without the bus stop, Watkins Glen's going to be a bit interesting with the way the draft works and the DRS and all that. But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it was on the old tire model, but in the last year, that is the only place that I've ever beaten Tim. So hopefully, I can do it again next week and win a race.
Well, Greg, thank you very much for jumping in the booth. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Positive Sim Racing and all my teammates. They did a great job yesterday in their league race. So congrats to them. And our main sponsor, Universidad Isabel Primera, and all our technical partners. And thank you to you guys for putting on the broadcast as always.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Greg, and catch you very soon.
Thank you.
And I'm standing with Edward A. Samborski with us. And howdy, Ed. How are you doing?
Oh my God, I'm seeing more red than last week.
Yeah, I thought after that turn 1 incident we're gonna see you just not do anything. Then all of a sudden you turn into the full on remember the Alamo mode, and what a crazy race! You were just picking your way through a field that had very little chances of overtakes. Then unfortunately you got into an incident. But walk us through that race.
I got going into turn 1 before the first part of the corner, before entry. I looked to the right. I saw Rob Boer was there. So I'm like, all right, leave a car and a half, net code, whatever, I'll be fine. As soon as I turn the car in, I get the call for 3 wide. And then next thing I know, I got hit. And I asked Rob why he didn't turn the car in, why he didn't follow Steve. And he just told me he was afraid of over rotating the car on cold tires. which is fine, but it's just kind of like, really, here we go again, you know? And like I mentioned earlier, this has been the story, hot and cold, man. 1 week I'm a fire, and the next week I'm ice cube in the freaking freezer. So, and then after that, I didn't care. I'll tell you what, if I wrecked the car, I did not care. I was going as fast as I could. And to be honest with you, I probably could have went faster if I would have calmed down just a little bit, but I just saw red. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to the front as fast as I freaking can. And then I got stuck behind Simone, which I get it. He doesn't have to hand me the position, but he forced me into dive bombing him into the Audi S's. I had no other choice. I mean, you can't expect me just to ride there for 15 laps of the race. So it is what it is, you know?
It is what it is indeed. I've been behind drivers where they just make you do crazy things that's totally out of character, but it was very entertaining to watch you move your way through the field. Hopefully next week at Watkins Glen is a little less red, but a lot more entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, the most impressive thing I thought and did that race was when I went off the track, I didn't hit the barrier. So next week we're honestly, man, I was like, well, you got what you were asking for, and I was like, hey, I'm fine. And then just focused again, but I burnt the tires up. I love Watkins, and you know what? Next week I'm just gonna send it. I just straight up have had enough. I don't care anymore. So, I mean, it seems like if I'm timid and I try to do the right thing, I just end up in incidents. So here we go, full beans.
Still gonna send it.
Absolutely.
All
I
right,
just,
man.
it's just,
Well, thank you for giving us a good show, and thank you for not blowing up on track like we've seen before. I'm not going to mention when. Not from you,
yeah.
from other drivers. uh,
Yeah. I had a warning about that a few years ago. So unfortunately, believe me, I'd love to. I'd love to give them a piece of my mind, but I won't be
all right.
here ever again.
All right. Well, thank you, man. Before we let you go, anyone want to shout out?
Yeah. I was at my stepbrother's his baby's first birthday party. So now telling my parents I'm sponsored by Parent Corp. So we'll shout them out, and I don't know. I'll thank Netcode for saving me during Phillip Island when I got my second, because other than that slamming the barrier today, that's about my happiest moment. So focusing on the positive, boys, even though we're seeing red.
All right. Thank you. Oh, you have a good day.
Thank you, you guys too. And I'm still looking for that dang gone basement out there. I'll find it one of these days.
Take a marker.
Yes, thank you very much, Edward. Of course, we will catch you next time. One more interview, I think, because it's a mysterious name, but I think we are with Phil Reed, second place driver. Am I right?
That's correct. Hello.
Welcome to the booth then, Phil. Congratulations on the podium, and tell us about your race then.
Yeah, it was. I had a good one, I think. Actually, I'd sort of started the week struggling a bit around here, struggling with consistency, just struggling with pace overall, and then it sort of started getting better and better. And then yeah, so I had, going into this race, felt pretty good. I had a good race last night, and then it started off really well. Got past Paul, and then I was kind of just trying to get as much as trying to put Christoph off really more than anything because he was super fast, super consistent, and so I was just trying to keep up with him as best as I could. And then, unfortunately, I made a tiny little mistake, let Paul back through, and then from there, I kind of just the rear end was a little bit too oversteery for me to really fully commit to any of the corners as much as I was. So I kind of like backed off. I was kind of settling for third, and then unfortunately for Paul, anyway, he had his mistake, which allowed me to get back to second, and that was kind of it, really.
I was looking at the weather report before the green flag, and I saw that basically the track was very, very cold, 19 degrees Celsius, so the minimum is 18. So I thought the tires would last a bit longer, but I've heard drivers complaining about tire degradation even in this race. What was your feeling with the tires towards the end of the race?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I was having a bit of oversteer, more so than at the beginning of the race. Like I say, at the beginning of the race, I was feeling pretty comfortable to just sort of pretty much chuck the car into the corners and really lean on it. And then sort of like the last maybe 8 to 10 laps, it became a little bit more unstable. And I think there definitely was a bit more time where I think just because there's just so many odd traction zones around here, the rear can really suffer if you start just sliding a little bit here and there and running over curbs and stuff like that. It did seem to overheat the tires possibly a little bit, but it's I mean, if everyone's complaining about it, it's probably therefore it's more than likely it was the same for everybody. So nothing too bad.
And what about next week, where the series will run in Watkins Glen Classic Boot?
I'm glad you told me which track it was, because otherwise I'd have had no idea. Yeah, I mean, I don't. To be honest, Watkins Glen is a track that I've never really gelled with, but we'll see. This car, I think, suits the corners quite well. A lot of high speed, medium speed corners, not really any low speed. So that'll be interesting. I'll probably put a little bit more time into it than usual, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll see. Give me a week's time, and I'll let you know if it was a good thing to look forward to or not.
Awesome. Hopefully, we'll catch you next week in the race. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank?
Anyone like to thank? Well, do I have anyone to thank? Well, I'll thank the guys who race here and also in the league that I run on AOR. That's about it, really. I mean, just thanks for racing, because it's good fun, and it's a shame that there's not as much participation in this car as I'd like. But to all the people that stick with it, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Phil, and have a good night. Catch you next week then.
Thank you very much. Take care, guys.
And this was our second place finisher, Phil Reed, rounding up the interviews here from beautiful Zandvoort. Austin is back after disappearing for a bit, and hopefully he is able to talk again.
I am able to talk again after I was, well, the ghost in the basement has stolen my voice. Running joke between me and Edward Samborski, and he just happened to bring it up. But yes, after a wonderful race here today at Zandvoort, we have reached the end and are ready to go racing next week here on the iRacing Esports Network for a wonderful trip around Watkins Glen. It's going to be very fantastic. I've been joined by Marco Barbonera. I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a good night.